Before I get started with this video, you guys, I have to tell you about this amazing deal that you do not want to miss out on. If you are someone that's interested in maybe starting your own business, or maybe you already have your own business and you just want a little bit of motivation or information, or if you're just someone that's interested in self-development, starting a YouTube channel, having a side hustle, learning more about digital marketing, whatever it is, this is such a good deal for you. So what I'm talking about is the business bundle. It is a bundle that is worth over 18,000 US dollars, and we are selling it for $100. This includes 72 different courses / programs that you can take right now that will help you along your business or personal development journey. There are so many amazing, valuable courses in this bundle. It is insane how cheap it is. Honestly, this is the best deal I have seen. I've already signed up for a bunch of these courses, and almost all the courses are worth over $100 alone. And they are very valuable. They give you a lot of inside information about, I don't know, starting your own YouTube channel, or how to manage your finances, how to become debt-free, how to, start a side hustle, how to take your creativity and turn it into an online business, like so many different things. So if you're anyone that's interested in any of this and learning more, this is the best deal. This is the best investment. So anyways, check out the link down below, you guys. Full disclosure, guys, I am an affiliate for this, which means I get a commission anytime you purchase a bundle with my link. I have no shame in promoting this because it is the craziest deal I've ever seen. Insanity. Check out the link down below and enjoy this mukbang. Hey guys, it's Rose and welcome back to Cheap Lazy Vegan and another mukbang. Today we've got a bit of an Italian feast, okay? So we have got some vegan Italian pizza. Now obviously this isn't the most authentic. I live in Canada and I actually wanted to order pizza from this place that has like really authentic Italian pizza, but that place was closed at this time. So I got the next best thing. So this is actually a vegan pepperoni pizza, even with vegan cheese. I got this from, for those of you guys that live locally, I got it from Famoso, which is not a vegan place, but they have vegan friendly pizzas. So I thought I would get pizza today because I want to talk about my experience as an exchange student in Italy. Did I talk about this? Guys, forgive me if I've talked about this, but I don't know if I've ever dedicated a mukbang video to this topic. But recently I've gotten some requests to talk about some of my travels and my experience like living abroad or traveling. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for me to eat some pizza and talk about the land of pizza, Italy. And of course I got red wine as well. Another beautiful thing about Italy is the wine. All right, first, gonna eat some. Okay, so I do have a fork and a knife here. For those of you guys that don't know, in Italy, they pretty much give you like a pizza like this individually. Everything is very, very thin. The pizzas are very thin, and then they usually don't even slice it up like this. You know what I mean? Like they just have a big round thing, and then you just use your fork and knife to enjoy your pizza. Cheers, guys. First bite. You know what? Who are we kidding? Why are we using a fork and a knife? Want to see this? The vegan pepperoni is pretty legit. So on here, we've got vegan pepperoni, vegan cheese. This is Daiya cheese, by the way. We also have mushrooms, and I added artichokes, and there's also green pepper. You know what? Let's be a lady. Let's pretend I'm in Italy. Okay? I don't know about you guys, but lately I have been missing traveling a lot. This is actually really good, guys. Cheers. Guys, I'm sorry. I feel like I am like encouraging the consumption of alcohol. I don't want to do that, okay? I'm not becoming an alcoholic channel, but I do enjoy a little wine here and there, you know what I mean? Anyways, so yeah, I think we're all like kind of itching because, right now, it's such a first world problem, but like because we can't travel, these are things that we took for granted. Do you know what I mean? I keep trying to, not be a lady. I feel like, before this whole situation, we took a lot of things for granted, and I hope that this has taught us to appreciate these things that we took for granted. So one thing I do definitely miss a lot of is traveling. And I keep like reminiscing, thinking about the past, which sometimes it's good because it's like, oh, you know, you just kind of like take a walk down memory lane. But sometimes it can be not good because you're like, I miss those times. Oh my God, I'm never gonna get that back. Why is wine so delicious? So back when I was in university, this was a long time ago, my friends. For some reason, I really wanted to live abroad. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when this all happened. Wanted to live abroad, wanted to explore. I didn't travel too much as a teenager. I had basically only, you know, obviously gone, you know, I was born in Korea and I moved to Canada when I was 8. So I've been around Korea and to different places in North America. So when I was like 10, we did a trip. We did like a road trip down to Disneyland and we went to SeaWorld at that time. Oh my God. And all kinds of stuff. And I'd also gone to Mexico on like an all-inclusive, but I hadn't really traveled. You know what I mean? Like I've been back to Korea, but I don't really count that as traveling, you know? I wish this table wasn't so rocky. Come on. This is super not Italian, but I do have Frank's hot sauce. I'm just gonna put that on the side. Okay. If I had Tabasco sauce, I would use that, but I don't. Anyway. Why am I wearing lipstick? Anyways, I think I was just kind of like at the stage where I was like, well, now I am an adult. I want to go traveling and I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to go on exchange. I wanted to go and live somewhere abroad for a semester. And I thought, you know what, like, when am I ever going to do this? You know, I was in university and I'm like, this is such a good opportunity. When am I ever going to do this? I feel like I've talked about this before. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to repeat myself, okay? So, what was I saying? What was I saying? So basically, I wanted to go on exchange. I knew I wanted to do that, but I wasn't 100% sure exactly where I wanted to go. But what I knew for sure was I didn't want to go to Asia because, you know, it's too close to home. You know what I mean? I wanted to go somewhere I had never been, and I wanted to go somewhere with a rich culture, a rich history, because I love Canada, but the problem with Canada, it's not a problem, okay? What I don't find as interesting is that it doesn't have like a really long, I feel like I've talked about this, but like, you know, it's a new country, you know, and there's so many benefits of it being a new country, but I wanted to go somewhere that had a really long history, you know, and a really like well-rooted culture, if you know what I mean, okay? And somewhere where that I knew that if it wasn't for this opportunity, I would not be able to live there in the future. You know what I mean? Not that I would not be able to, but I'm less likely to. You know, there's certain places in the world where I'm like, yeah, I could probably live there, you know? London, for example, which I did end up living there for a bit. But this, like Italy, when am I ever gonna be like, I'm gonna move to Italy and get a job? You know what I mean? As an adult, after university, the chances of me getting a job in Italy is very, very low. Not that it's not gonna happen, but at that time I was like, I think my two choices that I really wanted to go to was either Spain or Italy, because I just thought I'm never gonna go and live in those places when I actually graduate and get a real job. So I thought, hey, let's go live in Italy or Spain. Now, mind you, I knew nothing about Italy other than, of course, pizza, pasta, all that good stuff. I knew nothing, okay? I was very ignorant. I knew nothing. At this point, oh my God, this was back in 2010. And this is how ignorant I was. Don't make fun of me. I didn't know what Milan was. I did not know. I've never even like heard of Milan. I know. And that's where I moved to, guys. I moved to Milan. I was like, oh, Milan, never heard of that before. I'd heard of Rome at this point, but I hadn't heard of Milan. So that's how little I knew about Europe. I knew very little about Europe. I'd never been to Europe before. And the reason why I chose Milan was only because I was in business school in university, and my business school had a partnership with a business school in Milan called Bocconi. Anyone from Milan? Hi guys, anyone from Italy? Ciao! So 2010, my friends, 2010, I decided to move to Milan. So Milan was the only school that I could go to through my business school. So I didn't choose Milan just because I didn't know anything about Milan. I was like, what's Milan? Okay. So of course I did some research before I went and learned that, you know, it's like the fashion capital or one of the fashion capitals in Europe. And, you know, it's actually pretty, you know, it's a pretty well-known place. I just didn't know about it at that time. That is why I feel so lucky to have traveled, you know, because I've learned so much in the last 10 years. So that was 10 years ago. 10 years. In the last 10 years, I have traveled so much and I've learned so much. So I feel very grateful that I've had those experiences. So I decided to sign up for my exchange, and I also decided to move into the dorm. So there was a dorm that they recommended. It was called Arcobaleno, okay? That stands for rainbow, I believe. I believe it's because it's shaped like a rainbow. Like the building is like an arch. If you look at it from the top, it looks like a rainbow. It was called Arcobaleno in Milano, okay? I feel this already. And I remember I arrived, and keep in mind, again, I have never been to Europe before. This is my first time in Europe, and I decided to go and live there for 6 months. So I was like, I was nervous, I was excited, I didn't know what to expect. I was just like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? But I was more excited than anything. I wasn't like super duper nervous. I had traveled back to Korea by myself a few times at this point as a teenager. So I think those experiences kind of like made me less nervous about going to Italy by myself. But of course, Korea is a different story because, you know, that's where I'm from. So I have family, relatives there. Italy, I knew nobody. Didn't know the language, didn't know anybody. But I landed Milano airport. I forgot which airport. It was probably like Malpensa or something. No, it was one. Maybe it started with an L. Milano Linate. Oh my God, now I remember. Milano Linate Airport. I forgot how to say airport in Italian. Aeroporto. I don't know, I just made that up. Anyway, so landed. Little Miss Rose. This was 10.5 years ago now, because I got there, I believe, January. Did I get there January 2010? Okay. I believe that was the time that I got there. So I land in Milano Linate Airport. I know zero Italian. I was very unprepared. I'm one of those people, I am not really well prepared when I go to places. I just kind of wing it half the time. And I guess I was kind of like that because, I mean, if I was prepared, I would have learned a little bit of Italian first, you know, maybe learned a little bit, at least a little bit, but I didn't. So my plan was I get to Italy and then I move into my dorm, and I actually signed up for an Italian crash course. And it was like a 2-week crash course before the actual semester started. So I believe the semester started in February. I could be wrong, but I believe so. And they had given exchange students an option to come a bit earlier and take the Italian you know, a crash course so we could learn a little bit of Italian, because not a lot of people in Italy at that time anyways spoke a lot of English, you know? I mean, they don't have to, right? They're in Italy. Why do they gotta speak English? They don't gotta speak English, okay? So, got to Linate, spoke zero Italian, and then I remember I was like so lost. I remember like I was just so confused, and I went outside into the taxi, and there was like some old taxi driver man. I can almost vaguely remember what he looked like, and he spoke zero English, and then he just kind of like, you know, took me to his taxi, and I'm pretty sure he like ripped me off a little bit, because I remember the taxi was like really expensive, and I was like, oh, anyway, doesn't matter. Got myself to the dorm. I had like the address written on a piece of paper, I'm pretty sure. And this was the time with no smartphones. At least, well, did we have smartphones? Not really. Like, I did not have a smartphone. I think I had a, what did I have? I don't know what I had, but I know that my phone from Canada did not work in Italy. I know that. So I got myself like a flip phone. My God, this is like flip phone generation time. Whew, I sound old, but I'm really like, I'm not that old. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't have a phone. I didn't have, you know, Wi-Fi or anything. And I just had the address written on a piece of paper, and he had driven me to my location, and it turns out my residence was actually quite far from anything else. So a part of me regretted it later on that I had selected the residence, because, you know, usually the residence is right beside the campus, but this school particularly, for some reason, the residence, at least this residence for exchange students, I'm pretty sure like they put most of the exchange students in that residence in Arcobaleno. It was like far, okay? It was like way out in the boonies. I don't even know, okay? It was like in the outskirts of Milano, and yeah, it was kind of far. I didn't know though. I didn't know anything. And plus, you know, I wouldn't change anything in hindsight, because obviously those experiences that I had in the residence, I met a lot of exchange students and we did have a good time, so. Anyways, so got to Arcobaleno. I was like, oh my God, what do I do with my life? I'm so confused. Moved in. So the dorms were all like, it's like apartment style. So you have a little kitchenette in your room or in your apartment, and of course one bathroom, and there's 2 bedrooms. So the kitchenette is like, you know, a small, was there a stove? I think there was a little stove, and a small, you know, fridge and all that good stuff. I moved in and no one was home at that time. Okay, I didn't know who my roommate was. I had no idea who my roommate was. I remember I was really jet lagged, so I took a nap. So I kind of like settled in a little bit, and then I took a nap. I didn't know what to do. I'm in this like middle of nowhere. It's not like I'm in like city center where I can like walk outside and like look at touristy stuff. I'm like middle of nowhere. I don't know where I am. I don't speak the language. I'm exhausted because I'm jet lagged, so I decided to take a nap. So, took a nap. I feel like we're on a date. I'm telling you guys like my story. I'm taking this nap. I am exhausted. And all of a sudden, I get a little knock on my door. Get a little knock. Why is this a knock? Anyway, knock, knock at my door. And then I was like, who is that? Okay. So I get up. I'm like disoriented. And I'm like, oh my God, where am I? Open the door. And it is my roommate. She's like, hi, I'm Thais. I'm your roommate. And I was like, oh my God, who is this person? Turns out her name is Thais. She tells me she's from Brazil. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I've never met someone, at this point, I had never met someone from Brazil, I believe. I did not know anybody that was from Brazil. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. You're from Brazil? I didn't even know what Brazilian people looked like. And she was like, I'm your roommate, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, I'm from Canada. And then she was like, do you want to go to the store and like pick up some stuff? Just things that we would need, you know, just you know, dishwasher detergent or dishwashing detergent or cleaner, stuff like that. And I was like, is there a store? I don't even know where the store is. She's like, yeah, there's a grocery store right beside us. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I don't speak Italian though. I'm like kind of scared. And she's like, oh, it should be fine. Like I understand it a little bit because I like speak Portuguese. And I guess like Portuguese people can kind of understand Italian. At least that's what she said. She seemed to understand Italian. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, oh, cool. You can understand it. Cool. Because I do not know anything. So we went together to the store. And yes, it was very close. And the store was called Esselunga. I remember Esselunga. Memories are coming back. Wow. To me, it's so crazy to think that this was 10 years ago. So, got to Esselunga. Start buying random things. Okay, cool. Then we come across an aisle. It is an entire aisle dedicated to wine. I mean, there's probably other liquor there too, but it was literally just full of wine. I have never seen so much wine in my life. And where I live in Canada, I don't know how it is in other places. In Canada, every province has its own like liquor law, so I'm not sure how it is in other places in Canada. But in Alberta, you have to go to a designated liquor store to even find wine or beer. I remember when I was living in Quebec though, they had wine or beer in regular grocery stores, which I thought was like crazy, because in Alberta, you have to go to a liquor store to get any liquor whatsoever. Anything with alcohol in it, you have to go to a liquor store. To me, to see an entire aisle of wine in a regular, just big grocery store was like, holy, am I in heaven? I don't know. I was like, oh my God. And to my surprise, the wine was so cheap. It was so cheap. I can't remember. It was probably like €2 for a bottle of wine or like €3. It was like ridiculously cheap. And so my friend Thais, well, my roommate at that time, I didn't know her at the time. Thais and I were just like, oh my gosh, we get some wine and just drink. So we decided to get a bunch of wine. We got a giant bottle. I remember we got a bottle that was like double the size of a regular bottle of wine. I think it was like a 2-liter bottle. Anyway. We ended up getting like 4 liters of wine. It was like ridiculous and it was so cheap. We're just like, oh my God, okay, well, like let's get drunk and like get to know each other. So that evening we decided to stand in our balcony in the middle of January. I don't know what we were thinking. We just like have on our like big poofy jackets and we're like having wine in the balcony. It was actually quite nice. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I will forever remember that day. And we're just like drinking wine and just chatting and drinking wine and chatting. And we end up drinking the entirety of what we had purchased. Now we chatted about, I don't know. I was asking her about Brazil quite a bit. She was telling me that she was so happy that I was Canadian. And she knew I was Canadian because, oh, she said she knew I was Canadian even before she met me because she had gone to the bathroom and she had seen my toiletries, I had already set up some of my toiletries. And she noticed that the labels were in French and English. And she was like, oh, she must be Canadian because in Canada, by law, I believe, the labels all have to be in French and English because we're a bilingual country. So she was like, oh my gosh, she's Canadian. So she knew I was Canadian. So I remember, did we order pizza that night? I don't think we did. And yeah, we just drank and talked and drank, and we ended up just drinking way too much. I blacked out. And then apparently, according to her, I was like, I went to the bathroom or something, and then I wasn't coming back out, and then she just saw me just like passed out in my bed. So anyway, ended up being super hungover the next day. Oh God. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning of this whole thing. I'm gonna drink some bubbly. I don't have a separate glass. Oh, this one is, see? This is in French. What does it say? What? Buble mu? Is that how you say it? Oh my god, guys. My French is so bad. It's blackberry. Is that how you say blackberry? Blackberry bubbly. Buble mu. Oh my god. Sans calories. Sans... Okay, I can't do it. No calories is what I just read. Anyway, so that was my beginning of my Italian journey. And then I think a few days after, we started going to the Italian crash course. And it was funny because at that time, I remember that we went to the crash course and my friend was in a different class because like she was on a different level. At that time, I remember this crash course, I went there and everyone in there was like Asian other than like 2 people. Everyone was Asian. Everyone looked like me. I was like, this is kind of weird, you know? I was like, what? That's so weird. Why is everyone in here looking like me? Because like there weren't that many Asians, to be fair, in this whole like exchange program. So to me, I thought that was very strange. So they obviously categorized people into different classes depending on their potential level of Italian. I think they put anyone with an Asian last name. Like, it sounds bad to say this, but I think they put almost everyone with an Asian last name into this one class. So they just like separated. It was so weird. I don't know why they did that. Maybe at that time they thought this was like logical because maybe, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a reason. Anyways, I remember like everyone in my class was Asian and I was like, this is so weird. There's people from like Singapore, there was people from, I can't remember, like Korea and, you know, a bunch of Asians in one class. And I just felt like it was a bit racist. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't racist, but I don't think it was racist intentionally, like to be rude, but it may have been a bit ignorant because obviously I was from Canada and I had always written that I was from Canada. And there was people from, you know, Canada as well, or from the States that were also just Asian, you know, they had an Asian last name or something. And then we were all placed in the same class. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to kind of meet people from different cultures at that time, you know, because I already knew a lot of Asians and I wanted to learn, I wanted to meet, you know, Europeans. I wanted to meet like people from somewhere I've never been, but I still made really good friends, which is really good. Honestly, and if some of them, if I ended up going to the part of the world where they are, and if I called them up, even though I haven't talked to some of these people in like years, I'm sure that they would show up and we would meet and it would be super cool. So that's what's really cool about exchange. That's like one of my favorite parts about exchange is like, you just meet people from everywhere. So anyways, but that was like the 2-week crash course, okay? But I think my main problem with that, I don't know why I'm complaining about this now. It's been like 10 years. But my main problem with that course was that I was like, well, you know, it feels like they just kind of like segregated us. It was just a bit weird. We were just like, we were all, and it wasn't just me that was like thinking that way. I was like, why are all the Asians in one class? And the thing is, the people that you meet, if you go on exchange, usually, or if in any sort of circumstance, usually the people you meet in the very beginning are people that you're probably gonna be friends with for the rest of the experience. Of course, you can meet other people, but the people you meet in the beginning is really important. So they tried to already segregate us from the beginning, it felt like. Anyway, I'm being over dramatic. It's been 10 years. It's time to let it go, Rose. Anyway, I'm just like kind of back in that headspace now. But man, I had such a good time. I was a drunk mess, my friends. Drunk mess. I mean, past tense. Not so sure. ASMR vibes. Woo! Cheers! Oh my god, how did they say it in Italian? Salute. Is that Italian? Oh my god, I'm sorry if that's not Italian. So some of you guys might be wondering, did you take courses in Italian? Like, what were you doing? Now, luckily, this school called Bocconi was actually quite a prestigious school. So it's kind of nice to like have this on my resume, even though, I mean, at this point, my resume doesn't really matter, but I remember like just milking this whole Bocconi thing because Bocconi is like, again, a very highly esteemed school in Europe. I did not know this. I had no idea when I went to Bocconi that it was a highly esteemed school. I didn't really care either because, I don't know, I'm from Canada. I'm from, you know, a place where it's not as big of a deal what school you went to, like what university you went to. I know that in certain countries, it is a big deal, but to me, it was never like a big deal. Anyways, so Bocconi, turns out, was like a very highly esteemed school. And the good thing about being an exchange student is that you don't actually have to be like super smart or super elite to do an exchange in one of these schools. So the school that I went to, my university, it's a good university, but it's not like, oh my God, it's like Harvard. No, it's not like that. It's just a normal, regular good university. It doesn't matter, okay? So, but I still like milked it for a while. I was like, I went to Bocconi, it was one of the high esteemed schools in Europe, even though there's no reason for me to be like boasting about that because I was just an exchange student, But so Bocconi, I think because it was also a business school, all the courses or all the students had to also take English language courses. So they offered a lot of English language courses. I think the regular students there have to take a certain number of English language courses to graduate. So they had a lot of English language courses to offer. So of course I only took the English courses because I didn't speak any Italian. And the great thing about when you're an exchange student is that your courses or your grades do not count, at least when you are in your bachelor's, okay? For the most part. Some schools and some countries have an exception, but most countries, it is literally just pass or fail. So as long as you pass, you're gonna be fine because your grades actually don't count toward your final GPA in your home country. So all I got in my transcript was pass or fail. I mean, I did well, don't get me wrong. There was like no pressure really, I just had to pass, but I wanted to do well because I'm a nerd. But anyway, so I ended up taking 5 courses in Italy, which is quite a lot. I don't know why I took 5 courses, but it was like, it wasn't that hard. I do think that they made the English classes a little bit easier because, the Italian students also have to take the English classes. So obviously if English isn't your first language, it'll be harder for you. So they probably made the English classes a little bit easier. That's my guess. So for me as an English speaker, it's obviously a lot easier. If I had to take a course in Italian, they would obviously have to dumb it down for me. So the Italian students would probably like ace it, no problem. You know what I mean? So anyway. So yeah, I remember taking 5 classes and oh God, I'm trying to remember like the details, but it was a really fun and interesting experience for me. And I traveled so much because the great thing about Europe is that because the countries are so small and the continent is so everything is just like, touching each other. Everything is just very close together. It is so easy to travel within Europe. I feel like Europeans probably take this for granted. But if you are in Europe, consider yourself very lucky. Because in North America, everything is far apart. Everything is far apart. Flights are very expensive. And not just that, but I'm still traveling within the same kind of cultural, sphere. You know what I mean? So we've got Canada, got the US. Obviously, we have different cultures. We're different countries. But if I go anywhere, it'll be either usually Canada or US. And we're not like so different culturally. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you know what I mean. But when I was in Europe, I remember just like being so fascinated with the fact that I could literally fly like 1 hour, 2 hours and be in a completely different country, completely different atmosphere, completely different language, and just different history, different culture, different traditions. And I found that to be so fascinating and amazing. So that's one reason I love Europe so much, as much as I think Canada's an amazing country. And like, I actually can't think of a better place to live than Canada. One of the things that I really do love about Europe and really do miss about Europe, and I think would be amazing if I actually lived in Europe, one of the amazing things is that it is so close by to so many other amazing cultures and countries, and it just gives you a chance to be able to like travel to these different places in a budget-friendly manner. And I think because of this, I think this is why, oh my God, I'm like going off on a tangent. I think this is my random analysis. I think this is why, you know, people think that maybe North Americans are a little bit sheltered or a little bit not as cultured, essentially. Not just because we live in a country that is newer, that's part of it, but also because we just geographically, it is harder for North Americans to travel to a different country with a different culture. We can go to like Cancun, we can go to, you know, Palm Springs, we can go to New York, we can go to Toronto, but it's different from being able to travel within Europe and go to so many different places at a cheap cost and so easily for like a weekend. So I think just naturally, by virtue of being born in Europe, you will just have more of an access to other countries and other cultures, which in turn will give you a lot more perspective and make you become a more cultural person. Obviously, not everyone can still travel within Europe. You know, obviously a lot of privilege comes with that as well. But in Canada or US, if you want to really travel, you have to have a lot of privilege. Like you have to have a lot of money because traveling is not cheap here. So, and even if it was cheap, again, you'd still have to go pretty far to go anywhere with like a pretty different culture. So there you go. There's my analysis for the day. So yeah. Oh my God. I figured it out, guys. That's why. I figured it out, guys. I had a drunken revolution. So yeah, it's not necessarily, you know, the North American fault that, you know, we don't get to travel as much. It's just so much easier and so much cheaper if you are in Europe. So if you grew up in Europe, you probably had so much more of a chance to just explore different countries, different languages, different cultures at a much younger age than somebody that was born in North America, because it's so much more expensive. Imagine like, you know, a family, right? Let's say I have a family, right? I have a family, I have 2 kids, okay? For me to go to Europe from here with my family and teach my kids, you know, different cultures and show them this different world, it would cost so much money. And I wouldn't just go for like, you know, a week. I would go for probably like 2 weeks at least to make the trip worthwhile, because it's gonna take at least a day to get there and then at least a day back. We're losing 2 days here. So the chances of a regular North American family being able to go to Europe in the first place, it's gonna be dependent on how much money you have to begin with. So a lot of people are not gonna be able to afford that kind of trip. That just automatically discounts so many people from being able to have those same experiences that a European family could have just by taking a very short flight or a very short trip on a weekend for like a fraction of the cost. So there you go. I just solved why Canadians and Americans are, you know, seen as uncultured. It's just harder to travel. Geographically, we are just far from anything that is very culturally different from us. I had an epiphany. You're probably like, Rose, it's very obvious. Okay. But yeah, that's just a little observation I had. So anyway, you know what's funny? Daniel and I, we actually talked about this whole thing. Well, not into this much detail, but we talked about like our travel stories and like our experience with traveling in our latest podcast. I am finishing this entire pizza. Anyway, I think I talked about like most of these things in that podcast. It was a Patreon only, but I feel like for me, when I talk about these old times, it really makes me want to travel again. Yum yum. Oh, by the way, when I lived in Italy, I think my classes were from Monday through Thursday. So I think I had a 3-day weekend. I did that on purpose so that I would be able to travel a little bit more, and I traveled so much. See, that's the thing. That's another great thing, okay? Actually, to be fair, oh my god, I'm having so many different thoughts. I think I have like partial ADHD. Anyways, yeah, so I did so much traveling when I lived in Europe, or when I lived in Italy, because I had never been anywhere in Europe before. So every weekend, almost every weekend, I traveled. I remember I went to so many different countries. You know, obviously I traveled quite a bit around Italy as well, but I also went to Spain, Portugal. Oh my god, my brain feels fried right now. Spain, Portugal, France, Austria. I went to Hungary. I went to Slovakia, Croatia, Germany. Oh my god, like a bunch of places, and it was so cool. And the first place I went to, actually, the first place outside of Italy I went to was Stockholm. And it was in the middle of February. I don't know what I was thinking, my friends. Actually, I do know what I was thinking. I remember my roommate and I, we were like, oh, let's go on a trip. And it was on a particular weekend. I can't remember why. Maybe we had some time off. But anyway, it was on a particular weekend, and she was telling me that there was this place, there's this airline called Ryanair with really cheap flights. And we started looking, and I could not believe how cheap these flights were, my friends. We booked a trip to Stockholm for, I think it was 35 euros round trip per person. And that was actually an inflated price because I accidentally purchased some sort of insurance that I didn't mean to. If I didn't purchase that insurance, it would have been like 25 euros for me, round trip. I could not believe it. Could not believe how cheap it was. So, went to Stockholm, Sweden, guys, in the middle of winter. And I remember we stayed in this like boat. It was like a hostel in a boat. So Stockholm has, you know, that river that runs through the city, just like most cities do. And on that river, there was this random boat hostel. It was literally a boat that was a hostel. So we stayed there. I remember that. I went to all kinds of different places. At that point, because I hadn't traveled too much, we went to like all of the touristy locations. Anyway, that was the first place. The first place I traveled to within Italy, other than Milan, was Verona. I remember Verona is pretty close to Milan. They say that's like the birthplace of like Romeo and Juliet. So like everything there was about Romeo and Juliet. It was pretty cool. And it was so pretty, I remember. I don't remember if I ever went back, but I remember it being very pretty, and I remember being like, oh my god. Because Milan, to be fair, Milan's a really cool city. And it's like, you know, the business capital, it's like the fashion capital, but it's not the prettiest city in Italy. There's so many pretty cities in Italy, but Milan is definitely like more of a, it feels more like businessy. It feels more industrial, if you will. I still love Milan, obviously. I lived there for 6 months. I love it. It's still like, you know, has a special place in my heart. But going to Verona, I was like, oh my god, it's so beautiful here. I'm sure I would have gotten bored there. Milan's a lot more fun. But I remember thinking like, oh my god, it's so pretty. Cheers! Alright, you guys, so that was my pizza, which I finished. Did you think I could finish it? Is that a rhetorical question? I'm not sure. So there you go. There is my kind of Italian style pizza. It was very thin, okay? The crust was very thin, which means it's kind of like an Italian pizza. It definitely felt like an Italian pizza. But yeah, that was very delicious. I am stuffed and I'm a little bit tipsy, okay? I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm not really even sure what I just blabbered on about, but I feel like I did not even get to the main part. I don't even know if there is a main part, but I talked about kind of like the beginning of that experience. I'm sure there is more that I could talk about, but yeah, let me know what you thought of this discussion, because I had a lot of fun kind of reminiscing with you guys. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this video. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, give this video a big thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. And guys, do not forget to grab yourself the business bundle if you are at all interested. This is a deal that is so good to pass by, okay? It is so ridiculously good. The link is down below. You guys know the deal. There are so many different amazing and very valuable courses that would otherwise cost you hundreds of dollars, and instead you're gonna get 72 of them for only $100. It is pennies compared to what it actually is. So if you are someone that's interested in business or self-development or digital marketing, then definitely check out the link down below to grab yourself the business bundle. Again, it's only available for a week, so you do not want to miss out on this. It is such a good deal. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!